All right, so here's our examples. So remember, you should have printed out the notes that I gave you for you to follow along. Our first step is to rid the equation of any funky fractions. So number 1 right here doesn't have any fraction down here, so we don't need to worry about step number 1. All right, the next step is to distribute, to use the distributive property if needed. So right here, this 4 parentheses v plus 8, we need to distribute that, okay? So the 8v is not part of the parentheses over here, so you don't need to worry about anything with that. Also, I don't really like how this is written. I like my equal sign to be on the right, so I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it and put it on the right side, all right? All right, so I rewrote it right here where it says 8v minus 4 parentheses v plus 8 equals 8. I just flipped it, okay? And then I went ahead and showed my distributive property of how I'm going to solve for my distributive. 8v minus 4 times the v plus, because I had an addition. Now, I put negative 4 because technically that is a negative 4, okay? Don't put negative 4 right here because you have that subtraction, which means that it's the negative 4, all right? So then negative 4 times 8 equals 8. And when we do this, let's see what we get. I end up with 8v minus 4v, because 4 times v is 4v, plus negative 32, because negative and a positive multiplied gives me a negative. But I want to rewrite that to where it says 8v minus 4 minus 32 equals 8. All right, so I've rewritten it, 8v minus 4v minus 32 equals 8. Now I need to that's the second step, distributive property. Now I need to combine like terms because that's my third step. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to circle and box like I would normally. All right, so anything with my variables, I like to put a box around it. All right, and I'm going to put a box around this. Okay, now remember, you don't box anything on the left side of your equal sign, okay? And then I'm going to, or not left side, to the right side. I'm not going to do anything over here with the 8 right now. I'm going to leave it alone because I'm trying to solve. So right now I just need to focus on everything on the left. And then I'm going to circle this minus 32 because that's my constant, all right? And it is not a like, it's not got a variable with the v, so it's not a like term with the other two, all right? So 8v minus 4v, well, that gives us 4v. Okay, and then minus 32, well, that's all that I have, so I'm going to just put minus 32 and then equals 8. So now I've got this down to a two-step equation, all right? So then the next step says move the variables to either side. Well, in this case, we didn't have variables on both sides of our equal sign, so we don't need to move any variables over, all right? You only do that. You only need to move the variables over with, for example, like on this one. So here's our equal sign. We got a variable on the left and we got a variable on the right. But here, we've only got the variable on one side of the equal sign, so we don't need to worry about moving any variable terms over, okay? So simply all I'm going to do is I'm going to start solving for my equation, and my first step is to undo any addition or subtraction. So right now I'm subtracting 32, so to undo that I need to add 32, okay? And whatever I do to one side, I need to do to the other. So I get 32 plus 8, which gives me 40. All right. And then I'm just going to go ahead and bring down my 4v. Now right now, 4 and v are being multiplied together. So I've undone my subtraction. Now I need to undo my multiplication. And I'm going to do that by dividing by 4. And whatever I do to one side, I've got to do to the other. And so v is going to equal 10. All right. And if you want to check to see if that's true, what you would do, okay, is you would plug in for this v, the 10. You'd plug in for this v, the 10, and then you would solve this as you would a normal PEMDAS problem, doing the parentheses first, and then multiplying times our negative 4, okay? So 10 plus 8 gives us 18 times our negative 4. Let's see, what is 18 times times negative 4? I get a negative 72, right? So then I get, I'm going to write it up here, up top, if that's okay with y'all. So we said minus 72, or negative 72. That's what I got whenever I did this part right here. And then 8 times 10, well, 8 times 10 is going to give us 80. So then 80 minus 72 does equal 8, so we did do this correctly. Okay? So let's go on and go look at number 2, and we're going to go ahead and distribute it. So I need to do 8x, or 8 times 4x. okay, minus 8 times 4, all right? And then go and put our equal sign, equals negative 5x minus 32. All right, and I'll retype that in here in just a minute. I just needed you to see how I'm going to distribute this 8 right here times my 4x minus the same 8 times the 4 that's inside the parentheses. And then I just brought down, rewrote equals 5x minus 32. Okay, so when I multiply this, when I multiply 8 times 4, I get 32x. And then bring down my subtraction. 8 times 4 gives me 32 equals negative 5x minus 32. All right, and then the next step says to do combining of like terms, step 3. All right, all we have on this side of the equal sign is a variable, two terms, one with the variable, a variable term, and then a constant term, and then the same thing over here. So there's not any constants that I need to combine or any variables that I need to combine. You only combined whenever the things that are on, they're on the left side of the equal sign or on the right side of the equal sign, okay? You don't crisscross over and combine them. Meaning I wouldn't combine this 32 with that one right now and this with that, okay? That's going to be saved in just for in the end, all right? So now what I need to do though is I need to do step 4, which would be to move any variable terms. And the hint that I told you earlier is you want to move the variable that is the smallest, all right? So obviously negative 5x is the smallest, so I'm going to want to move that. So to zero out negative 5x, I'm going to need to add 5x. And that cancels out. And I'm going to do the same, and whatever I do to one side, I got to do to the other, so I'm going to do the same thing right over here. And 32 plus 5, that's going to give us 37x, all right? And then minus 32. All right, so 37x minus 32 equals negative 32. Did I do that correctly? Let me look. All right, let me double check to make sure I did all this correctly. 8 times 4 is 32x minus 32, because even I as a teacher can make mistakes. And then I just brought down the minus or negative 5x minus 32 plus 5, take 0 out, plus 5, 36x. Okay, so now all that leaves left for me to do is to get rid of this constant on this side, because I've got all the variables on one side now. Now I need to get all the constants on one side. So I need to get rid of this minus 32, which means I'm going to need to do the inverse, which would be to add 32. So I'm going to put plus 32, and those 0 out. Now whatever I do to one side, I got to do to the other side. Now here's why I kind of like second guess myself for a moment, because negative 32 plus 32, well, that's also going to cancel out and leave us with 0. So that in turn leaves us with 37x equals 0. Well, what happens? What did I do, right? Okay, we did nothing wrong. Everything is completely correct. What we want to do is think for a moment. When I'm going to do this, I've got multiplication, so I'm going to divide by 7, all right, 37, and that's going to cancel out, and I'm going to divide by 37. Well, 0 divided by 37 is just 0, okay? What I was going to say, and I kind of stumbled up on my words, was that what times 37 is going to equal 0, and we all know that 0 times 37 equals 0. I just wanted to just reiterate that when you're multiplying to undo, you need to divide, okay? And remember, 0 can be divided by a number, but a number cannot be divided by 0, all right? All right, let's go into example number 3. Actually, I'm going to save example 3 for you. We're going to go into example number 4. All right, so here's example 4. I kind of just moved everything around. I've got negative 5, parentheses 6k, plus 6 equals 30. Now, first we're supposed to look at our steps and see if this is a funky fraction. Obviously, there's no fraction, so I can skip step 1. And I'm going to go on and move to step 2, which means we're going to need to do some distributing. So we need to do negative 5, okay, times 6k, close parentheses, plus negative 5 times 6, and that's going to equal 30, okay? And I'll rewrite that in so it's a little easier to read, all right? Okay, so then negative 5, 6k, well, negative 5 times 6, that's going to give us a negative 30k, okay? Plus negative 5 times 6, negative 30 equals 30. And the better way for us to write that and saying plus, instead of saying plus the negative, we would want to write that as negative 30k minus 30 equals 30. All right, so I've got my variable on one side, so I'm good to go there. I don't need to do any of moving in my variable terms. Combining like terms, I don't need to do either. I'm going to skip step 3. There's no combining of any like terms, because remember, we are only to combine things that are on their own side of the equal sign. So there's nothing here to combine, and this 30 is just all by itself, so there's nothing for me to combine there. There's no variables that I need to move, or variable terms or constant terms. Now I just need to simply solve by undoing my subtraction here, and I'm going to do that by adding 30. All right, and that cancels out, and then I'm going to come over here on the other side of the equal sign, because whatever I do to one side, I've got to do to the other. So I'm going to go ahead and add 30 over here as well. And 30 plus 30 gives us 60, so I end up with negative 30k equals 60. And then the next step is we're going to want to undo the multiplication. And we undo multiplication through division. So we've undone our subtraction by adding, and whatever we did on one side, we went and did to the other side of the equal sign. So now we're going to go ahead and get k by itself, because that's our goal, to get our variable by itself. And we're going to divide this by negative 30. And that cancels out. And whatever I do to one side, like I've been saying over and over and over again, like a broken record, is I'm going to do to the other. So then 60 divided by negative 30, a positive divided by negative is going to give us a negative, and 60 divided by 30 is 2. And again, you can plug that in to see if it works to make the statement true. The assignment is uploaded on Canvas and published whenever you're ready to go take it. I've extended it because the video has taken longer than I anticipated. Slight delay in the video, I apologize for that. And there are 2 videos. Sorry, the notes are long tonight, guys. So the assignment isn't due till tomorrow night, all right? Have a good night. See y'all tomorrow.